Two wickies, one young, one old, tend to the lighthouse for what should only be 4 weeks. As the laborious days chisel away, one slowly slips into madness while the other already has. Stars Willem DaFoe and Robert Pattinson. Written by brothers Max and Robert Eggers. Directed by Robert Eggers. So, 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 uh, so yeah, what you guys think?
The movie sucked balls.
Did it? You really thought so?
All right,
What?
look, man. My first note is
Unironically? Oh no.
No, I had a feeling he would. I had a feeling
absolutely.
he would.
Look, man. The first note I have, literally, is the intro song sucked. I could have written a more dramatic score myself, man. Just from there, it already had me not impressed. Let's leave it.
Okay, so then before we go on, so then what would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 5 Willem Dafoe's?
2.
A 2? What about you, Ro?
I would rate it out of 5 William Dafoe's.
Yeah.
William Dafoe's.
Yeah.
I would do I would do like 3 and 5/8 William Dafoe's.
So basically 3 Willem Dafoe's and 1 Robert Pattinson.
yeah. That's actually a good metric. I like
Okay,
that a lot.
hold on. So 3 Dafoe's and 1 Pattinson.
And 1 Pattinson. Robert Pattinson was really good in this movie. I'll say
Yeah,
that
I
right
thought
now.
so. I you know what? I would have given the movie like a 4, 4.5. So I'll go with 4 and 2/8. How about that? Just to keep with the 8s. I'm not going to simplify it. We have no time for that.
Okay. So
So
basically, you gave it 5 Robert Pattinsons. I understand.
yeah, I'll give it. Yeah. So yeah, no, man. I don't understand. Like, I guess I could understand your disdain for the music because it was just fucking ominous music.
Yeah, but I've heard ominous music. I mean, just take Jaws for example. Jaws is ominous music, but it's freaking classic, man. And it's like it makes you feel the tension. Where this one just made me feel bored.
I could agree on the music. It was a bit of a letdown, but since the movie was about the time period as well as like the situation that's happening, the lack of strong melodic music or anything didn't really upset me, especially given you have the lumberjack songs and the old sailor songs that they sing. You get the music, but it involves that time period with it. You know?
What is it? It's diegetic. Because I also like
it's non-diegetic, but that's
wait.
the thing.
I thought non-diegetic meant that it's unnatural and it comes from a different source. Or is it flip flop?
No. Well, yeah, non-diegetic is music that is inserted.
Right.
So like non-diegetic music would be like if I'm walking down the street, the Batman theme starts to play like as like a shadow goes over. That would be the non-diegetic.
Yeah.
But if it's the music that's like playing, like I'm outside a bar and I hear music and then I go in and it's the music from in the bar, that's diegetic.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like all of the music was diegetic because all it was basically was these two fucks drunkenly singing sailor songs, and then that foghorn, which I really liked a lot because I felt like it was like a natural thing that kept like bringing tension into the situation. Like every fucking time it's just in the background because these motherfuckers are like going crazy. And I'm just like, oh my fucking god! And then like the little ambient fucking swells and shit. Like I kind of like that it was like kind of subdued. Although sometimes the swells could be a bit much. But
well, the thing that I liked about it was like how much was was said in just every time the foghorn actually went off during those times. Because at first you see him as just annoyed, like it's just like a fucking earache. Really fucking angry every time it goes off, you know. But then as the movie progresses, every time he reacts to the foghorn, you could see how much further he was like broken from all the from all the day's work.
Here's the problem with Pattinson or Young Tom was being broken though. That guy was a little bitch. That guy was broken from the moment he got there, right? So here I thought at the beginning of the movie, I was like, hey, this guy's gonna be in this island for like a year or something. That's why he's acting like this, right? And then all of a sudden I find out it's 4 fucking weeks.
That's what my roommate said. He was also just like by the end of it, he's like, yeah, this motherfucker was crazy since the beginning, I guess. Like that just must
That's
be
what
the
I'm
case.
No,
He was
yeah.
fucked up since the beginning.
He was
At
already
first,
broken. He
yeah,
broke as
at
soon as
first
he
I
got
thought
to
it
the
was just
island.
him. Yeah, I thought it was just Willem Dafoe was just like trolling him the whole time and just gaslighting him constantly. And then like by the end of it, I'm like, wait, what the fuck was real? Is he even a real character? Is this guy just like insane on the island? This Shutter Island bullshit.
And that's what I love, dude. And because the way I would describe the movie to people when I'm like, hey, you should watch it, they're like, what's it about? My answer is always the same. It's about two people going crazy, but you're not sure who it is, because it's just like you have Pattinson's character, young Thomas, on one end, who like uh revealed has that murderous past, because the story is more centered around him. So he's the one who you see like actually like engaging in like these like weird moments, these like nervous breakdowns, these mental breakdowns. I mean, it's all derived from fucking his murderous past. But then like when you do see DaFoe's character, old Thomas, when you see him isolated, especially if it has to do with him tending the light, or even in the moments when he's interacting with young Thomas, if it's ever about the light, he is never happy. He's like very obsessed, almost like sexually obsessed. Like when he was talking about how he's like, what was it? When they were talking about old Thomas's past, and he's like,
You're
"Hey,
talking
were
about
you married?"
Wake?
Yeah,
You're talking about Wake?
because they're both named Thomas. That's why I'm trying to say old
Well,
Thomas
he
and
wasn't.
young Thomas.
Well, I don't think that guy's name was actually Thomas, right?
Yeah, Robert Pattinson went by Ephraim Winslow, but then
Yeah,
that turned out to be the dead dude,
yeah.
or the guy
I
he
thought that
killed.
he just said that his name was Thomas because he was thinking about killing Thomas, and that's the
No,
reason why he
because
adopted that name.
I think it's supposed to be. It was the last day before they were originally supposed to leave. So it was the 27th day, and they're talking about it, and Pattison turns to him. He's like, "Hey, I never even actually heard what your name is or whatever."
Yeah.
And then that's when he says, Wake, Thomas Wake, but you could call me Tom. Later on, Pattison is talking, and it's when they get into they get real fucking drunk. It's after they already had to start rationing.
Yeah.
And it's right before the confession that he makes in his bedroom. And he says he's like, Thomas, and the guy thought he was talking to him. And he's like, yeah, well, what do you want or whatever? And he's like, no, my real name is Thomas. And then that's when he's like trying to confess drunkenly to Willem Dafoe's character. But but Dafoe's like, I don't want to fucking hear it. Don't spill your beans to me.
But I thought that he was just saying that because he was like Thomas is like, oh, like my name's Thomas.
Kind of
But
like a foreshadowing
yeah, he was
of the
just like
fact that he had.
That's what I thought, at least.
He had taken the guy's name who he killed, and now he was taking the name of the guy who he was going to kill next.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, my name's Tom."
You can't.
Like, not my name's Tom. That's what I got from it. Because yeah, like you said, it was like when they were like talking, and he's like, "Oh, what's your name?" And he's like, "Oh, it's Wake." And he's like, "No, like your real name." And then that's when he's like, "Okay, Thomas." So that's gonna be like my next fucking identity. Maybe, I don't know. And then since he doesn't have a last name, because he doesn't actually know his last name, because Wake was just
No,
like his
he
pirate
does
name,
say
right?
no, his actual name was Thomas Wake, I believe. And then the other guy's name was it was Thomas Howard. I think it
Yeah.
was Howard. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. But okay, I thought Wake was just like his pirate name. Like people just called him Wake. I guess it could be his last name. I didn't notice.
No, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Wake was his last name. I don't see, because like, and it's you know, it's kind of ironic that I'm about to say this, but it's like because I was gonna say, it's like, yeah, his last name's Wake. He has no reason to lie. But like the whole movie is him just lying to this fucking guy, just like making him more and more crazy. You don't know what the fuck is happening. You don't know if he's just fucking with him, or if he actually believes this is what's happening to himself, you know?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell if this guy was fucking with him like the whole time.
I don't know. It was crazy. Anyways, So I don't know. What else is it that you didn't like about it then?
Laziness, man. I think black and white is just a lazy way for me. For me, that's what I think. Black and white is a lazy way to add drama.
I mean, I guess, but to that like the whole thing wasn't shot black and white just for dramatic effect. Like he actually used black and white film, and he was I think it was like he was also using technology
Here you
as
go, man.
close to that time period as he could to use it. I guess.
Well,
I mean,
first off, I really don't give a shit what kind of film he was using.
I was about to say, I'm like, that doesn't matter. It's black
That's
and
not
white.
really conveyed in the movie to me, right? It's not like I'm like, oh, this movie's good because he was using actual film or some bullshit like that, right? Just some of the scenes, like the toilet scene or the sewer water scene, when he opens the sewer water and then they like focus on it and it just swirls around and swirls around.
oh,
To me, that was
when he first goes. No, that was their drinking water or the water reserve.
drinking water. It's just useless. When he was jerking off, American Pie already did that.
well, they showed the tank though because it was foreshadowing the seagull that he found there the next day or whatever, and the chalk, which is another note that we found out. We researched this. We paused the movie to find out. The chalk is actually used to disinfect the cistern when you're drinking water from it. So, fun fact.
Hell yeah.
That's how that works.
I love
That's
it.
why it tasted like shit.
I mean, I'm just talking about this is just the beginning of the movie, so
what did you think of the aspect ratio?
Yeah, they bring all this tension, right? You think something's gonna happen, and they break the tension by him bumping his head on a board. So
I thought that was hilarious. I laughed.
It is funny, maybe, but you're breaking the tension using physical comedy in a horror drama. I don't know. I didn't like it. Then after that, the dude farts, and I'm like, all right, come on.
I didn't like the farts too much. They were a little bit cartoony.
Cartoony,
a little bit
and
cartoony.
it was just too much farting.
It was. But Robert Pattinson didn't like it either. He's like, I'm sick of your farts. There was one part where he started yelling and he sounded like Bill Burr, where he's like, he like started screaming, his fucking voice broke. I was dying. What do you think of his accent? What Robert Pattinson's accent? I thought Willem Dafoe's accent was really good, but I wasn't totally sure about Robert's accent. Like sometimes he was like I feel like there was enough of it that it makes me second guess if it was consistently good. Like I'm like it was okay enough for me to like be like, okay, it was fine. Like
yeah, but that's the thing about the accent is because there were points when the accent definitely was stronger. I don't think it was like a half-assed thing. I thought it was kind of like the identity of this guy. Like he has DIDs. Is it DID?
What, dissociative identity disorder? I don't know. You
Disorder.
said
Yeah,
DIDs.
yeah.
I guess my big disappointment was I'm watching this movie, right? And then about in the middle of it, I start thinking, you know what this is? This is the story of an old man who started going crazy. He's now imagining stuff, and he's now imagining his young self. And what he's trying to do is save his young self from going insane by helping him out and basically just trying to keep him from going insane to where he's at right now. And in that action, he fails. Again, the psychosis is so powerful, he fails to convince this guy to not go insane or to help him not go insane. And eventually, that insanity and that young man kills him as a metaphor for, all right, he was just too insane to recover. So that was my original thought until Robert Pattinson, the young Thomas, goes upstairs to the lighthouse, sees what's in there, basically a fucking Pulp Fiction scene, falls down the stairs.
So salty.
Falls down the stairs, and then he's dying, and you realize, oh no, this story is literally about just two dumb drunk fucks trying to freaking keep each other from a lighthouse. Like there's no meaning to it, there's no metaphor to it. It really is just two guys going crazy, and one of them trying to keep the other one from the lighthouse, and the other one wants to see what's in the lighthouse. That's it. That's the entire movie.
I think the metaphor is still there, but I thought the same thing, but like in reverse. I thought that Willem Dafoe was a figment of Robert Pattinson, of Tom's imagination, and that he was just some crazy fuck who would like reverse engineer the murders that he committed and like try to convince himself of like that it wasn't him, but then this time he just fucked it up because he went to the lighthouse. And just like our thing was like, okay, what was the lighthouse light, you know, and it opens up, and Brendan's theory, which I think makes sense and is kind of funny, even though it was fucked up. Like in the moment, I was like, damn, this is fucked. Because the way that he was like getting exploded was cool as shit. Like these high contrast scenes right here were really fucking intense. Talk about acting with your face. Like holy
Dude.
shit. But like, and then when Robert Pattinson was like exploding, he's like, ah, and then he like died. Like he's just like, I think that he just went crazy and he was drunk and he just grabbed the light and burned himself alive, and then he just fell down the stairs like a fucking idiot. Like, and that's just what happened, like IRL. And it wasn't any sort of like he had like a revelation or any sort of like mythical anything. He just fucked up because he was drinking like oil and honey. Like just
No,
straight
it was
ethanol.
it was
That's
it
what
was
I thought it was,
kerosene.
right? Yeah, it was the kerosene,
I
right?
believe.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was just like, what the fuck?
I mean, knowing that you think everything was all fucking bullshit and whatnot, here's a question I wanted to ask. So the original concept of the movie itself was, what if a ghost was tending a lighthouse, taking care of a lighthouse and all that? My question is, does that affect anybody's perception of it?
I guess for me, it just makes it worse, man, because I think if it was a ghost, then it would have had that kind of ending that I was expecting, some sort of weird twist instead of two guys getting drunk and tending a lighthouse.
See, he like read the description and it said horror, but then when you go onto YouTube, it says psychological horror, and that's where
Yeah.
they pulled the rug from under us.
it was like the movie The Room. It was marketed as a drama, but then when it failed, it was released as a dark comedy. I don't know, man, because like I liked all the symbolism and stuff. Like, because the story, like from what people are saying, it's supposed to be if Prometheus and Proteus had met. You know, Prometheus, he was being a titan in the Greek mythology. He was like the guy who brought fire down to humanity, and then Proteus, being a prophetic sea god and all that. He was that Proteus is supposed to be young Thomas, and that or Prometheus is young Thomas, and old Thomas is supposed to be like the representation of Proteus and all that. You know, just like he was the old man of the sea was what he's referred to. Like just the tragedy of it all in general. It was very Greek tragedy, you know, especially at the end.
Yeah, but Greek tragedy has a meaning behind it. There's a reason why somebody dies. There's a lesson to be learned. That's what this was missing. If you're trying to link it to Greek mythology, is it was missing that lesson to be learned.
Well, I don't know, but that's the whole point of symbolism, isn't it? For you to like figure out the lesson, because like you have like all these moments of sexual repression, like homoerotic sexual repression in general. These guys are like isolated on their own. There's a lot of symbolism behind like classism versus elitism versus the labor class and everything. You know, there's just a lot to draw from.
But what was the lesson to be learned here then? That you shouldn't repress your sexual desires?
No, Dad. The lesson was that you shouldn't use drinking as a way to cope with your depression.
Yeah. Okay, I'll say this. Okay. I thought it was cool. I feel like I got some of the symbolism for sure. Like I got some of the homoerotic overtones. I got some of those like depressive overtones. And then like some of like the class struggle a little bit too. But again, like I do kind of agree that like none of it actually like points to like an overall, like it never like fully wraps it up and like gives like a conclusive like end statement. Like it does kind of just like present these ideas but like doesn't do anything with it a little bit. At least that's how I felt. I don't know if maybe it's one of those things where like I have to watch it a second time, like understanding what the movie is and like thinking about it like that way, and like maybe it'll make more sense. I don't know. But I read on Wikipedia where they were like, I guess like one of the, I don't know if it was like one of the writers was like quoted saying how like this movie was inspired by like the philosophy of like Carl Jung. Like this movie would have like Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud just like furiously eating their popcorn, and I thought that was a little bit pretentious, just a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a little whack.
Not only is it pretentious, but it goes back to something that I personally don't like in movies, which is that there is no ending, and I have to keep on thinking about it after the movie. Like if you can't wrap everything up in a movie, then I don't think you did your job. Like it should be my job to figure it out 3-4 days after the movie by going to Wikipedia and trying to find what exactly the movie was about. If I have to go look for what the movie was about, I think you did a bad job. Because I like to think that a fairly intelligent guy, you know?
Well, no, I mean, but that was part of like some of the fun with it, you know, my favorite scene in the whole thing, like it was after he had made the confession about having murdered the real Ephraim, and he was fucking breaking down, and he like, I don't know how you would say it, like very whimsically fucking found his way to the lantern of the lighthouse, and he fucking ends up having like that little tuffle. It's revealed that he's like fighting against himself, only to have old Thomas grab him. And there was that whole like light beam scene. To me, there was just so much being said in there, and like so much that I was alone taking from. Again, kind of back to the whole homoerotic sexual repression between them, and then having done research outside of it and learning that scene was based off a painting called Hypnosis by Sascha Schneider, a gay German artist. If you see the original painting that inspired like that moment, versus what you actually get, like there's a lot of reflectiveness going behind it, and that's, I feel like this was also just like a reflection on like a lot of things just in general, a reflection of like identity, a reflection of like the class system and like elitism and stuff, you know.
So I guess it's just not my type of movie. There's almost like a artsy type film, because if I have to go and research and find out that in order to appreciate a scene, I have to know about this gay German artist, then
No, but that's what I'm saying is like my appreciation of the scene didn't come from learning about like this other stuff. It just so happened it was part of the whole thing, you know. So if anything, it just made me even further appreciate the moment and like what I'm seeing or getting from the film, I guess.
even then, though, going back to Raul's point of it being pretentious, even then, even though you
I'll give you guys
appreciated
that.
even though you appreciated the scene at the time, you still missed what he was using as his muse for that scene. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I guess, but like I feel like I don't have to understand every reference that's being in there to appreciate it. It's like I think it was Conan O'Brien. He was talking about it like when he was writing for The Simpsons. He's like, you would have 350 references packed into one episode. Whether you got it or not was part of the fun. He was like just basically saying is like, you still get the jokes, it's still funny, but knowing further what the reference is just adds a little more. It's not that it has anything to do with, oh, like this shit sucked, but then I watched the movie that it's making fun of, and I'm like, oh my god, it was hilarious. Like, you know, like it's still that I had that appreciation for it.
Yeah, but
It's like watching Rick and Morty. You need to have like a certain level of IQ to understand it, you know?
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. It's not that I don't have the IQ to understand the movie. It's just that I don't have the knowledge of a gay German artist and the story of Prometheus and Protus. And
Was that a shot at my dad?
No, that was a shot at Rick and Morty.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because that's like the big meme where like Rick and Morty fans always talk about like, oh, if you don't think that Rick and Morty is funny, it's because you're too dumb to understand it because this show is too smart for you. And so I was just like making fun of that idea of like this movie is like the Rick and Morty of Willem DaFoe, where like if you don't get it, it's just because you're too dumb and you don't get it.
No.
I was making fun of you, Sean. You fucking encyclopedia Andy over here.
My
No,
bad. I like to do research into stuff. I don't know. Like, and
No, I think it's fun.
Research.
I mean, that movie made me want to look up stuff. So
exactly,
I'm on the same boat.
And to point that as well, it's like it's not even because I didn't know the story of Proteus. I had no idea who that was, and I knew Prometheus generally, but I didn't know like all the details. And like having done the research into the film and like kind of found these little things, I did learn whether it is about that or not. Just knowing like other people's interpretations or what they saw or little hints that the director or writer themselves have given, you know, like it's like putting together a 500-piece puzzle.
Yeah, but so two points here. One, I didn't have to know what the references were to appreciate it, because even before and after the references, I still don't appreciate the fucking movie. And two,
Oh, okay.
I don't mind doing research after a movie, right? For example, any movie that has historical references, like I don't mind going and doing the research just so I can learn a little more. But I don't want to do the research to figure out what the fuck the movie was about. You know what I'm saying? Like when I watched League of Their Own, I went back and I researched the Rockford Peaches or whatever the fuck they were called because I thought it was interesting. Like, oh, let me see what the actual history of the Rockford Peaches was. But I already knew what the movie was about and I enjoyed it. Like I don't want a movie to make me go and do work just to understand it. You know what I'm saying? That's me. That's me though.
Just like how I am, I just like little puzzles and little. It doesn't have to have a set ending or lesson or moral. It's just about like just watching the symbolism behind everything. I just like watching this interesting weird story unfold, I guess.
It's like it reminds me of like back in high school when I told one of my friends that she should watch Donnie Darko, and then she finally watched it, and then when she was done watching it, she's like, I don't understand what the point of this movie was. Like, what did I just watch? Like, I just watched like a sequence of events happen that like ultimately led up to nothing. And like, it's cool, and I like the movie. And if you watch the director's cut, that's another one of those movies where like if you can really only truly understand what the movie's about if you watch the director's cut that explains the fucking bullshit to you, because there is a lot. And I like that movie. I think that movie is really cool, and I think that it's like one of those few movies that like that did time travel and it didn't feel like fucking weird and like it didn't make sense, but like it is kind of like a movie where it's just like what actually happened, like what was actually this movie. It's
It's
cool,
probably
but
just a preference in genres or a preference in I guess the difference on why you watch movies, right? So you guys, especially Sean, since I've known him forever, he enjoys watching something that's going to make him think and make him interpret and figure out what it's about, right? I don't. If I'm sitting down to a movie, it's because I'm fucking had a long week and I want to open a beer or pour a glass of wine and sit down and just fucking veg out. Give me the movie. I enjoy it. I leave the real world for a little bit, and then I come back and get back to work or get back to my stress. And this fucking movie just stressed me out even more because the ending fucking sucked for me.
I don't know.
See, it's fun. It's like, and that's why next week we're gonna watch Caligula. No,
you want to open up a beer? Well, you might as well buy a keg.
Yeah, I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle because I do like to like watch a movie sometimes. I like have to think about it and have it be like, what's going on here? But then also sometimes I kind of want to like, I don't want to feel so lost that I'm like overthinking my own experience of the movie. And then just being, did this movie actually mean anything? Or am I just like trying to find an excuse to like why this movie is good and I just don't get it? Like sometimes it can get so abstract that you're like, I don't know.
Exactly.
Well, so I'm sorry that your lack of, imagination
Wow.
bested you this time.
What did you think about the acting? Did you like the actors in it? Did you think they at least did a good job, or was it too?
I thought Willem DaFoe was phenomenal. Pattinson wasn't bad. I was pleasantly surprised by Pattinson because I've heard he's not a very good actor before, and I don't really watch a lot of movies with him in it. So I was pleasantly surprised. I think at first I was kind of annoyed with him, but once the movie kept going, I got into it. So
I don't know. I've always heard good things about Pattinson.
He's alright.
It's just a Twilight thing, like follows behind him. I actually don't know that much about his other movies, so I don't know if he's good or not.
He's done a lot of like just independent style films. He was in that Netflix movie, The King. That was a recent thing. He was pretty good in that. All right, in that one too. The fucking DaFoe, obviously, he killed it.
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
When I was at work and I was just like, oh, did you see The Lighthouse? I saw this movie was crazy, you guys should watch it. And then like one of the people on my team was just like, that movie, I couldn't finish watching it. I got like 2/3 of the way through and it was just too weird for me. I couldn't finish it.
I mean, yeah, no, it's definitely a weird one.
Oh, you know what, that kind of triggered what I was going to say earlier. I think if I would have gone into the movie knowing a little bit more what the movie was about and knowing that it was going to be that type of movie where I was going to have to really figure out, I guess, what he was trying to convey in this movie, I may have enjoyed it a little bit more. But I went into it not in that state of mind. Look, man, I think if it would just been a fucking ending, I would have enjoyed it too.
It would have just fucking ended.
If it just didn't do that, like if it tried to be as pretentious as it set out to be, I would have been fine.
If it turned out he was a ghost or some shit like that, I would have been fine with it.
All right, I mean, but what if? Who knows? Because I don't know what the movie's about. I guess I didn't do enough research these past 3-4 days to find out myself, Dad. I'm sorry.
The movie was a metaphor for Mel Gibson's life. Let's be honest. He
Yeah.
martyred himself. He was Robert Pattinson the whole time. He was just trying to find the truth.
Is that why the only things that were black were hidden in the shadows?
God damn it, Sean.
I'm sorry, Mel Gibson. It's not my fault that he hates
I know. I know. I'm just saying. God damn it. What a piece of shit.
All right.
We let him back into Hollywood. You remember that?
They let everybody back in Hollywood. Who is the guy that fucking is like a convicted, not even like it's hearsay, like an actual convicted pedophile? He's still given an invitation to the Academy Awards every year. I can't remember who it is, but
I
fucking
don't know. Was it
he's living in
Roman Polanski? Was it
feel like that's- I
Bryan
feel like-
Singer?
yeah. Was it anybody in Hollywood in the 1970s through 80s?
I don't know. Was it Harvey Weinstein?
Was it Kevin Spacey? No, he only went after boys. Moving on to my next question then. So given the whole thing of like what's happening in the movie, like Robert Pattinson, young Thomas, is doing like all the laborious work, and fucking Willem or old Thomas.
Fucking old Thomas?
Old Thomas. Yeah, he was
don't remember
fucking
that
old
scene.
Thomas. Willem DaFoe was fucking old Thomas hard. Didn't you see him? He was looking at him through the shingles, fucking him.
Wait, what? Wait, what are you talking about? Wait, what?
Yeah, you don't remember? There was that scene when Robert Pattinson he was reshingling the roof because there was a leak.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
he like fucking peered through, and all you see is old Thomas.
Oh yeah, he was like humping his pillow,
crusting something. Yeah,
yeah.
Was it his pillow?
Okay,
I didn't.
Well, I don't know. That's what
I would
he was doing.
assume, but
yeah,
maybe
he was just humping like the bed. Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Because there was a hole already in young Thomas's bed, and that's where he found the mermaid. So he could have been just going right into the springs.
All right, let's talk about the mermaid, specifically the mermaid vagina. Wait, because what was okay? So the mermaid was what was the mermaid symbolic of? Was it just temptation?
Yeah, I think that's all it was. It was because it was always screeching like the sirens call, and sirens are always a representation of like when you fall through your primitive desire, it always ends badly. So yeah, so like just given the whole basis that all we're really seeing is fucking old Thomas watching a light, which is like the fucking ultimate desire, apparently. Real Pulp Fiction.
They used the same light bulb actually.
They just put the briefcase in there, I heard.
Yeah, it was in black and white, so you couldn't tell what color it was.
Yeah. It was just open the whole time. In fact, the door that opened up by itself was the same door that was used for the briefcase. You just
yeah, those hinges, those same hinges. They were made by Smith and Wesson.
He just literally opened up the briefcase. You just thought it was a lighthouse because of your own misconception.
Except in this movie, the main actor did look and act like a bitch.
Wow.
I guess that's all. That's like your opinion, man.
And speaking of which, when he was going up, when he was taking the shit and he was going all the way over there, I was like talking to our roommate. I was like, "Yo, what the fuck? Like, why is he going like all the way out here?" And he's like, "What? You just want to throw your shit in the fucking water, like right there?" And I'm like, "Well, like, fuck, it's gonna wash away anyway with these tides. Like, I mean, do you really have to go all the way out there?" And then he goes to the edge, and I'm like thinking to myself, I had a lot of moments where I just kept like it was like when I was watching Cats, where I was like, man, this movie is so silly. There's no possible way that they're gonna do this thing that I thought in my mind. And then they did it. And then one of those scenes was when he was walking up with the shit. And then I'm like, is he gonna throw it out? And we're gonna get a fucking dude ashes scene going on. And of course what happens.
And and that's the thing, because whenever I was actually doing research into it, and I found out that like he was supposed to be the fucking Prometheus character, and it said like, oh, Prometheus was held for his intelligence. I was like, this guy, the guy who threw the shit against the wind.
I know, right? Yeah.
And and speaking of the possibility that this guy is obviously a dullard. Who do you think was right about young Thomas's work ethic?
Damn, dude, I don't know. I
The
still
old
don't know.
man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. All because, like I said, like all it is every time you see these people doing anything, it's always Thomas working on something, fucking shoveling the coal into the steam fucking whatever to get the pulleys and all the belts running to make sure that the lighthouse is still all right. He's the one actually whitewashing the lighthouse, you know.
Yeah, and then he's moving around and breaks that rope.
That's true.
But he wasn't even moving around though. He wasn't shaking at all. He was like the
He was
shaking was coming
moving.
from, but it wasn't that like his movement wasn't coming from like the whole like, oh my god. It was more like the fucking the thing snapped and it was just like the fucking like that little ricochet that was happening, you know?
That's true.
Like
Yeah, he was kind of dropping him, like
So-
not gently.
he was kind of like I really feel like it was out for him most of the time.
So aside, I mean, in the end, you don't really know, right? You don't really know if he had been working or not.
Yeah, because I haven't done enough research.
What you can tell though is a lot of his scenes where he is working, right? A lot of them are riddled with hallucinations. So that's when he sees the mermaids. That's when he sees the dead body in the lobster cage.
That's true.
So are these hallucinations of him going out to work, or are they hallucinations while he's working? Like, is he in his bed thinking that he's out working?
Because I also wonder too, because like there was that scene where he like yells at him. He's like, "Yo, come back up here. Why did you swab the deck, matey?" And he's like, "No, I swabbed it twice." And then he's like, "No, you didn't swab it. You'll swab it 100 times, and I'll fuck your mum." And it was like that whole fucking exchange that was happening. I know. And then I was wondering, I'm like, damn, like, is he even actually working? Is he even doing any of this? Is Willem DaFoe even real?
Because
Like,
look, the moment that or the place that he was like, "Oh, you didn't clean this," was the same place where he was like fucking masturbating. I guess he just let it on the floor. But like, even if he
which was
is,
gross.
yeah, but even if he is an idiot, I feel like he wouldn't just be like, I should just leave that there." You know, like he would
Yeah,
pick
but what
up,
I'm
and
saying
then
though is that,
and there was
He
no
was-
mess on the floor. I even paused it to see if there was a mess.
but what I'm saying is, one, he's hallucinating a lot, right? So you don't know if he's hallucinating his work, that he's doing work. When he's going down with the wheelbarrow, is that really happening, or is he hallucinating, right? So the other thing is,
Well, actually, it's interesting that you actually say that because what made me want to ask this question was the scene. It was actually after he had threw the shit against the wind, which I thought was just great fucking symbol. You know, because it's like pissing against the wind, but you know, this time it's just fucking the shit is just hitting the fan. It's
well, yeah, but that's a lazy metaphor, man. It's like, hey, how can we make this guy? How can we make it to where people realize that the shit is hitting the fan, or that just getting shit on? Oh, just throw shit on them then.
but yeah, but it was a moment after that when he was wheelbarrowing back to the fucking lighthouse. And I thought it was really interesting because it's like, one, what was he wheelbarrowing to? It never showed him taking anything out. When he originally went out there, it was just with those shit pans. And when he's wheelbarrowing them back, the wheelbarrow is full of water. So that means like if he was hauling anything, he would have dumped it out, or like the water displacement, it wouldn't be that full. It was just that it was a
he was picking up coal. He wheelbarrowed before that.
Yeah, I was about to ask. There was a scene earlier in the movie, but I didn't know what he was doing. I was gonna see if any of you guys remembered when he was coming back, and then he like hit a rock or something, and it knocked everything over, and he was pissed because he's like, "Fuck!" Like, but I don't know what he was doing. Was it coal?
I think it was coal because normally you would see the scene, if I remember correctly. Normally you see the scene of him going down, coming back with a wheelbarrow full of stuff, and then he would be feeding the coal into the.
well, no, because but that was the thing is like, but that happened earlier. In this part, he had no other reason to take out the wheelbarrow. Like he had the shit pans with him, blew those out. He was wheelbarrowing back just water and an empty bottle because it was floating. So he obviously had he was already drunk. It was already empty. This wheelbarrow, if he was hauling anything, he would have tipped it over. He wouldn't have just let coal or the chalk, he wouldn't just let that soak in water. Like he would have had a cover. There was no cover on it. I don't think there would have been any way for that much water to accumulate in that little bit of time had he been hauling anything or not. Like 4 weeks pass in the span of 30 minutes, and you only see like you see various days and nights. Who knows which day it is, which night it is, if it's in order, if it's not in order. Like it's like 7 days or nights takes up a whole month. So is it we're only seeing him when he actually is doing work, and these are the moments that he remembers? Like he's like, oh, I'm a good worker because yesterday I filled up and shoveled coal into the steam system or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I started to wonder if he was full of shit because I think, and that's the thing too. Like I agree with your dad that I think that Robert Pattinson was full of shit the whole time, and ever since he got there, he was fucked up. Because then by the end too, when he has the book, he has the book of the truths and stuff, and it's like, yeah, all this guy does is like jerk off all day and then not do anything, and it fucking sucks. And then it's like, I'm sure he does some things, but like probably doesn't do them as like much as he should. And then fucking Tom like doesn't give a fuck because he's like, oh well, I know that this motherfucker's just going crazy, so I'm not gonna be a dick about it. Well, he was a dick about it. That's not true, but yeah, I don't know what the fuck. They're both psychopaths.
Well, because the thing is he refuses to drink. And it's not until after the food starts becoming limited. Old Thomas's rationing is drinking 1 bottle of rum a day, or I'm assuming rum since he's a fucking pirate. That last night they like have that fucking hurrah and stuff like that. Like it's not until then when he starts drinking, and but before that he was very sober. He always just fucking smoked the cigarettes, went for a walk at night, and that's another thing. How much sleep do you really think this guy got? Because we've seen Willem DaFoe in his bed. We've seen him actually fucking sleeping. We never actually saw him. Oh no, because there was a time when the water was dripping. But when he wakes up in the bed, it's like after this dream sequence. So is he just having these illusions of walking out, and like his mind just fucking like schizophrenia fucking setting on?
That's what
I
I'm
don't think he
telling you, man.
sleeps.
That's where I mean, almost you don't know if anything was really real. Anything could have been a hallucination.
Because there was also at the end, like going into like how this guy's full of shit and his work ethic and like not knowing what's real or what's not is. I mean, because we know, or at least we can assume that he had killed that gull. But at the end, when they're finally getting into the fucking fight, right before he like leashes DaFoe and makes him his bitch, literally, where he's questioning, he's like, "You're the one who brought the storm on us. You're the one who killed the gull," and he's like, it's not true. And it's like, yeah, you did. Like, and he like has that moment where he just fucking flats out lies about it. Is it we're seeing what he thinks he's doing?
Well, what I was seeing was
I
a
think
terrible
so.
movie.
What I saw was a waste of an hour and 50 minutes of my life.
Yeah, what I saw was a for Robert Pattinson movie. Is what I
You're
saw.
telling me I saw black and white movies and the only boobs were on a statuette? Fuck that.
No, not the
That's
only
true.
boobs. The mermaid showed her boobs.
Oh yeah,
That's
that's
true.
right.
And
Never
her
mind.
vagina.
I stand corrected. Which was fun fact that that vagina was based off of
A real mermaid.
Here we
Yeah.
go.
no, it was based. Okay, you know what? I won't belabor this
This
for you much
vagina was
longer.
based on a 1816 image on a gargoyle from the
There was a street artist who tagged a vagina on this gargoyle back in the 1860s.
It's known to be the first
And,
the first recorded instance of any graffiti.
this artist, he coincidentally he drowned.
And fun fact, he was also a gay German artist as well. But yeah, so I won't bore you with any fucking minor details, I guess.
Yeah, but tell me whose pussy this is based off of, kid. What are you gonna just
Oh,
not
it
gonna
was
say
based
it,
off.
or?
Yeah, no.
I mean, you don't have to give us the history of this bitch's like, fucking pap smears. You just gotta tell us like.
You will not get any transcripts of my medical records. It was based off of shark genitals, apparently, like the shark reproductive system.
No, gross. Okay.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Did you look up the shark vagina on Google?
Yeah. Well, I just kind of stumbled upon it like in my research on stuff.
Stumbled.
Like,
Oh, okay. The
yeah,
research.
yeah. I mean, Pornhub counts when you're searching on it, right? Like, it's all
Yeah,
good.
I guess so. It is a search engine. You're right.
Hey, it's
It's
the most popular search engine, so you're good.
yeah. There
Yeah,
you go.
if you go to the teacher category, that's where you find all the educational. That's where you find the good stuff.
Last thing, or one of the last things. Let's. I don't have an official title for it yet. Maybe we could spitball one. I call it my end of theory discussions. And I have to do I have to do my own echoes because I don't know how to use Audition. So let me poise
Just put a clip
this.
on there, and then you drag the echo to it.
Hey,
Yeah, what the fuck?
again, I'm
Sean?
sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't do enough research, Dad. I apologize. So
Okay.
I laid this theory down for you guys. What if in the scene, right, when they're whitewashing the lighthouse, what if whenever he drops young Thomas and it goes black, he hit his head, and when he comes back, what we're actually seeing is that experience. Like, you know what the brain in a jar theory is, right? When there, if you have a brain in a jar, it has to make sense of the environment around it somehow. So what it ends up doing is it starts to fabricate what it's experiencing into what would make sense in like whosever brain it was. Whenever he just first wakes up and you have the seagull, he's pecking at his leg. He feels a seagull pecking him, but he can't actually shoo it away because he's in a coma. It's not until DaFoe comes and shoos it away that it actually leaves. You know, DaFoe is like his the dying psyche. It's his body basically being like, "Hey, we're dying." Young Thomas in this case, which is still his subconscious saying, "No, I'm trying to fucking live it." So since now he's in this coma, what we're actually seeing is him being forced to confront his guiltiest past of murdering the real Euphraim. He becomes more broken and psychotic. He's not really drinking alcohol or like indulging himself. What it is it's his body becoming so dehydrated. So in his subconscious, he's drinking because he wants it so much. So he's just guzzling it down. That's why you have it where like a rain is coming down really hard because he just wants that water. Fucking, you have old Thomas over here who was taking care of him at first. So that's why everything was okay. The storm hadn't hit yet. It wasn't until old Thomas's guilt in reality got to him. So he killed himself, thinking that young Thomas is going to die anyways. Then hopefully he'll just go in his sleep. At the end, when we come back to it, that's why he's still outside, and maybe he's naked because he took advantage of him while he was in a coma. And like that might be part of the experiences that's going on. That's why we have like a lot of those like moments when he's jerking off, because those are times when he's like basically being fucking blessed and shit. But eventually, that's why when he comes back, he's still outside, very far away from how he would have gotten up into the lighthouse. He's undressed. The seagulls have been pecking at him because there was nobody there to shoo them away because old Thomas killed himself. So that's what my theory is. That's what I kind of got. Or maybe not got, but that's what I'm posing to you guys. That's my theory I'm posing. Like, what say you to that?
This is what I'll say. I have a pitch for a title for this segment. It's called "What the fuck did you just say to me?"
No, I'm just saying, like after he was like whitewashed when he fell, that like he actually
I got you. That he was in a coma the whole time.
Yeah. So it's like a brain
And
in
he
the
was just
jar kind of
imagining.
situation.
And so like everything that's happening in the world externally is just kind of like some metaphor of like something he's experiencing in the real world. So like if it's raining, it's just because he's fucking thirsty because he can't drink anything. And he's also like anytime he's like trying to fuck something or he's like horny, it's because he's like horny and he can't fucking move.
Or
And
it's fucking DaFoe like taking advantage. And that's why when he's like masturbating and he's thinking of himself with the mermaid, that he breaks down and cries because it's like he's not actually having sex with the mermaid, but he feels that there's something sexual happening, and he's like, you know, getting fucking raped in reality, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, a brain in the jar. Is his brain actually in a jar?
No, I just think it's like he's in a coma, so it's like how the brain in the jar, like it's got to make sense of the reality around it. So he's not.
It's like a novella.
I don't know what that is.
All right, here's what I think you should do.
The Spanish.
A Spanish soap opera? Yeah, because isn't it like a soap opera trope that someone's in a coma for like the whole show?
Oh.
That theory is bullshit. No, that theory makes sense.
Because I just think like nothing crazy happens really until after that moment. Like, yeah, there's a little bit, but we already know the guy's unstable. So now that he was forced, like through this coma, forced to actually deal with his breaking psyche, deal with that repressed guilt, that's why like so much shit was like breaking down.
Here's my theory. My theory is when he hit his head on the rock, it forced some mystical thing where they now switched bodies, and now old Thomas is young Thomas and young Thomas is old Thomas.
So you think it's a Freaky Friday thing?
It's a Freaky Friday movie. They just don't really. It's just an abstract Freaky Friday.
You don't see it because so much is unseen, but they actually ate a fortune cookie right before they started whitewashing that fucking
I heard
that
from
lighthouse.
I heard from the director that one of his favorite movies was Freaky Friday.
It was like it was a quote. He thought he was off camera. He was
The German version though.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I think your theory makes sense, but again, I can't really dissect it unless I sit down and think about it.
So I guess after everything's said, so Dad, originally you gave the rating a 2. Would you change that or you're gonna stick with it?
I'm gonna stick with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing
No,
at all.
I really thought this was a horrible movie. Look, man, I like your theory and all, but in the end, from things I've read and everything, this movie was seriously just about two guys getting drunk and going crazy, and that's it. To me,
No, and I can't argue against that. I could definitely see that these guys, like, it just had to do, like, all it was they already had their own fears, their own insecurities, and then they were isolated. They didn't even know each other, so it's not like they even had a relationship to like talk about.
I think that the worst part for me was that it made me think throughout the movie to try to figure out what was happening.
It made me think, why'd I even bother?
No, but it made me think throughout the movie, where I'm trying to figure out what is happening, trying to piece clues together. You know what I'm saying? Only for it to be nothing in the end.
Yeah, I can't say anything against that. I guess because I'm fine with like ambiguous endings and open-ended endings, but clearly it's just too sophisticated for you.
Have you ever heard of a show called Rick and Morty? I shit you not, they turn him into a pickle, and it's the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. And he goes, "It's Pickle Rick."
Now there's just too much symbolism for my dad to handle. Apparently, he won't like it.
A pickle? What does that even mean? Now I'm gonna have to go research where they invented pickles. Fuck that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, who knows? So then, Raul, I guess same question. You gave it a 3 and 5/8, or 3 DaFoes and 1 Robert Pattinson. Would you agree? Keep that score? Change it?
I think I might lose a little bit of William Dafoe's forehead, just a little bit. In talking about this, I really enjoyed my experience with the movie, and I think it was cool. But kind of hearing your dad talk about it, it did make me kind of think back on some stuff, and it was giving me those vibes of like, am I trying to make excuses for this movie to like give him meaning, or so I don't know. So I'm at least like skinning off a bit of his forehead. So now I think it's just a solid 3 DaFoes and a Rob Pat.
I don't know. I gave it a 4 and 2/8. I'm gonna keep that score.
You would.
Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't raise it to fucking 6/5 Willem Dafoe's.
You didn't just round it up. Well, no, because like the thing is, like, not that I disagree with any of like the issues that you have with the film, be it the music, the lack of actual depth that it portrayed. They're all good points, but like to me, it was just an enjoyable movie. I do like movies like this where it does give you a sense of like awe, what actually is going on, little subtleties, like the whole thing with the lighthouse being sideways and then flipping up being like the metaphor for like getting an erection, or it could be like while he's masturbating, that's the only time his world is actually right side up. Like who knows what the fuck it means. But that's the thing, is like you get your own interpretation from the little hints or clues, or maybe the little things that you see, because again, to me it's like you're just trying to piece together a 500 piece puzzle. Sometimes you're looking for an edge and you find the corner.
No,
I will
that's not
say,
true. You're trying to piece a 500-piece puzzle, but the puzzle pieces don't match. Like they're from different puzzles.
You may have different puzzles or different pieces from different puzzles, but that's what the beauty of is when you actually find that missing piece and you're able to put it in. You're like, oh, that's what the lighthouse flipping up meant. I was wrong. Or even if you don't have that, like, it's still fun to just fiddle around and try to figure things out.
Here's the issue with that for me. He's a director, right? The director is going to give you his vision. Put whatever pieces you want in there. If it's not the director's puzzle piece, you're wrong.
no, I don't know about that.
No, that's actually
I'm a big death of the author person. I think that like once someone puts something out there, it just becomes open to interpretation. I mean, you can say that like something could be objectively wrong because it's like, oh, like the director like said that this is what this is about, but like you can't tell me that my interpretation doesn't like hold water.
No, but your interpretation would be wrong if the director actually had a vision. It's just like poetry, right? Poetry up until about 1970 was not.
Oh, not now. You're gonna give me a fucking lesson.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna give you poetry up until about 1970s was not subjective. It had a meaning. So when you go down and you research some of the early 19th century poets and you're trying to interpret it, it's not open to interpretation. The poet actually had a meaning behind that poem. And it's the same thing with his movie.
I think that you can have like a direct meaning to a movie, but I don't think that that means that it isn't up into interpretation. I mean, that's why you hate this movie, right? Because it doesn't say anything. The guy has like a clear vision, but at the end of the day, if it's not being like projected to like the audience and it is just like open, then like because you're if you never did the research to find out what the paintings were and all of that to find out what the actual like meaning is, like all you really have is like what the director showed you and like what you could interpret from what he showed you.
So
know?
I'm not mad that it's open for interpretation. I don't think it is open for interpretation. I think the director had a vision. He was trying to portray that vision. What I'm mad at is that his vision came from an obscure place that I don't know where he got it from, and now I have to research to figure out what his interpretation was.
Well, but that's the thing. I guess to you, it's a matter of like having to do research. It's like this film makes you want to do research. Like I wanted to check out some stuff, especially when it comes to the arts. It's all up to what people see and how they see it. I just think that's the fun thing about it. If I look at the Mona Lisa, I see that it looks like one side of her face is happy, one side is sad. But then you look at the Mona Lisa and you see she has no eyebrows. You know, you see all these little things, and eventually you actually see the whole picture, or maybe you don't. Maybe there's still little details that have that are just a miss.
I feel that.
I mean, that's my take on the whole thing. I tell people to go see it. I think people should see it. I think it's a great watch. To me, everything was just visually pleasing. I just thought it was a good flick.
I did really like it from like a cinematography perspective and like a filmmaking perspective. A lot of like the practical effects that you can use. How fucking horrifying this motherfucker looks just with some like stark contrast and like a beard and fucking wrinkles. They did like a few like special effects, sure, like when they were doing like the tentacle monster shit. But like for the most part, it seemed like
No, yeah,
it was
they
pretty
tried to be
cool.
very practical about it.
It was very good.
I guess all that's really left to ask is so Raul, what do you got in store for all of us next time?
Okay. I think
It's a Medea movie.
Huh? It's a Medea movie. We'll split it down the middle, okay? I think that the movie that we should watch for next week is Jojo Rabbit. It's a comedy. It has some political messaging in it, so they got some thinking, but you got some good laughs, and I think it's a nice 50-50 on for everybody here. Because I thought this movie, because of the people's hats. When I looked up the poster, like their hats, I didn't see that it was like a Navy hat or whatever the fuck. Like they just looked like fucking World War II hats, and I thought it was a World War II movie, and it wasn't. And then I was like, you know what? We should watch Jojo Rabbit after this if we're gonna watch a serious Nazi movie, and then we should watch a funny.
I mean, you know, like,
but then this had
Nazis were
nothing
in the
to do with
1890s.
Nazis, like at all. But I still hold. I think Jojo Rabbit's a good watch.
All right, well then, fucking there you have it. Fucking enjoy it. Watch the movie. Hopefully, you guys could interact with us with it next time. You know, get some good discussion going. So, yeah, guys. I guess fucking see y'all next time. Peace.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Fucking watch the show, guys.
It's a movie. Fucking amateur. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm doing this show with this guy.